Maple Creek Ranch is excited to announce they just finished the asphalt on all the roads. So come drive the smooth roads and see what this piece of paradise is all about, which is now in its fourth and final phase of development. If you've always dreamed of living in the mountains, Maple Creek Ranch is for you. Surrounded by miles of wilderness, babbling brooks, horse riding, and hiking trails, with 2.5-acre lots to build your dream home. Learn more at maplecreekranch.net or hop in the car and come see it for yourself, just east of Franklin, Idaho.
This is an American Red Cross blood donation alert. The Red Cross has an urgent need for blood and platelet donors to give now to help save lives. Download the Blood Donor app, visit redcrossblood.org, or call 1-800-RED-CROSS to make an appointment today.
If you're a veteran in crisis or know a veteran who is, call the Veterans Crisis Line today at 1-800-273-8255 and press 1.
Covering Utah State sports like no one else. News Talk KVNU, 102 FM, 610 AM.
Hitting the issues that matter most to you. This is Direct Link with Utah Governor Spencer Cox on stations throughout the state in partnership with the Utah Broadcasters Association.
Welcome to Direct Link with Governor Spencer Cox. I'm your host, Robert Lovell, with Mid-Utah Radio tonight, and we are proud to bring you Direct Link once again, giving you direct access to Governor Spencer Cox. And as you heard, we are broadcasting on stations statewide to help make it so you, our listeners, have the opportunity to not only hear directly from Governor Cox, but also have the opportunity to reach out and ask questions that you have for him about what's happening in your area, the state, or the region as a whole. And if you want to call in and ask those questions or would like to be put on directly with Governor Cox, the phone number to call is 435-835-5555. Again, that phone number is 435-835-5555. If you have a question or want to ask the governor something, please give us a call and we'll get that question asked to Governor Cox. And so with that, Governor Cox, thank you once again for joining us on Direct Link.
Hey, it's great to be with you again. Thanks for having me. We so appreciate the opportunity to spend some time together.
Yeah, glad to have you on. And let's start with one of the big news pieces that came out this last week. Last week it was, with the biggest ever Utah budget unveiled by you yourself. And so talk to me more about that budget proposal for the state and how you got to the number you got at with $29.5 billion as the state budget for next year.
Sure. Yeah. Just so people understand, we don't set that number. That number comes from the economists who work very closely together. If you want a tax cut, that's also part of the number, and we have a tax cut for families with children proposed in there. The reason those numbers continue to grow, we've had the largest tax cut in our state's history over the past 3 years. Really incredible, over $1 billion in tax cuts, and yet the state continues to grow. And so as more and more people come and the economy grows, the jobs are growing, we feel very fortunate. Now we don't have as much money as in years past, in that we've seen a little bit of a decline in some of those tax revenues, a little softening happening in the economy right now. A lot of those dollars are federal dollars. So the state piece of that is really about $12 billion. The rest of that comes from the federal government that gets sent out to all of the states in different areas and different programs. And of course, we're working with members of Congress on that one. But so some real interesting opportunities for us. The focus of our budget is in a couple areas. For those that live on the Wasatch Front, there's been a real concern about growing homelessness and that our streets aren't as safe as they used to be. And I have no interest in seeing Salt Lake City turn into places like Portland or San Francisco or LA, where families don't feel safe. And so we've got some money in there to help with that. More shelter beds. We want to end unsanctioned camping. We don't think that it's compassionate at all to have people living on the streets and attacking people who are just walking by with their kids who want to go to parks and things like that. So more shelter beds, more treatment to help people who are addicted, to get them off the streets. We need to hold people accountable as well, and make sure that we have more mental health programs and more substance abuse programs. And so there's a big focus there. My top concern has been with the rising price of housing. We've seen growth in housing prices before along the Wasatch front, but we've never seen a statewide housing crisis. And this isn't just Utah, this is all across the United States right now. The entire country, every governor I talk to is struggling with this issue. And right now, according to economists in the state, about 80% of Utahns couldn't afford a median priced house today if they, if you had to buy a house right now. We know that this is a supply issue. We desperately need more starter homes. We used to build starter homes in this country. Most of us grew up in a small starter home, 1,000 square feet to 1,500 square feet, something like that. Sadly, we stopped building those about, for whatever reason, about 15, 16 years ago. And so we've been working very closely with the League of Cities and Towns. We've been working with home builders on what we can do to help increase the new homes, starter homes, so that our kids can live here again. And we're very excited. We believe, and we set a goal to build 35,000 starter homes over the next 5 years. We want to work with the private sector to get that done. We want to unlock these lots and make sure that cities and towns, they tell us there's about 190,000 lots available in the state. The problem is they don't have infrastructure there. And so as part of the budget, we're proposing an infrastructure bank that will help us, help cities to unlock those lots so that builders can come in, build smaller homes that people can buy. We'll work to get roads and sewer, help those pieces as well, where there's a public nexus, and then help those first-time home buyers who are trying to get into those new homes as well. So we're very excited about that piece. There's a big chunk in there for rural Utah. We've got several projects that we know are important, transportation projects in rural Utah, an ag tech park that we've been working on for a couple of years now that will bring some of the best innovation in agriculture. We want to do more to help our farmers as they're innovating and using less water. And then we have some hospital needs in rural Utah as well that we're working on. So a lot of good proposals in there. And we're looking forward to a legislative session where ultimately the legislature will decide how to spend that money.
There's several things I want to come back to within what you just talked about there, but let's go back to the housing piece first. You have the goal to build 35,000 starter homes. Is that what you said?
Correct. Yes.
So, and you talked about working with the private sector, but how is that ultimately going to be accomplished? We can set the goal, but what's the plan to actually get there to make it work?
Yeah, so as we've talked to builders, they said, look, we want to build these homes. We need lots that are specifically for this type of building. So again, these would be smaller lots. If you're building a 1,400 square foot home, you don't need a third of an acre, and that's something that's really important. So we've been working with the League of Cities and Towns. The idea would be to use this infrastructure bank to prioritize those types of neighborhoods and those types of lots. So for those cities that are willing to allow new starter homes in those areas, then they would get priority to the infrastructure bank to help unlock those lots, and then the builders can come in and build on those. There's a couple other things that I think are important. One is that we make sure that those lots don't get bought up by institutional buyers, by outside firms, big corporations. And so we want these to be owner occupied. We don't want to incentivize a whole bunch of lots that just get owned by corporations and then don't get sold. They get rented off. So that's something that's important. We also don't want these homes to get turned into secondary to short-term rentals, that to Airbnbs, where now you don't have families living in them anymore, and we reduce the supply, which again is the problem that we're trying to face. So we're still working through that. I've actually just appointed a new senior advisor who is working on this issue specifically. His name is Steve Waldrop. He's a wonderful former legislator. He's been involved in the space for a long time. He's well respected by the mayors and city council members and county commissioners, as well as the developer community. And so he's going to be working on trying to flesh out these ideas. It's still early, but we've had several meetings already with cities and developers to try to figure out how we can actually make this work and kind of unlock the ability for these types of homes to be built again. I will just say, I went back to a neighborhood where my wife's mom, my mother-in-law, grew up. It's where her grandma lived most of her life before she moved to Mount Pleasant. They lived in Layton. And we went back to the neighborhood where she grew up. And when we used to visit there, 15 years ago, when her grandma lived there, it was all old people that lived in these places. Now it's all there are kids everywhere. These neighborhoods, again, because they're smaller homes. These were all built in the 50s, shortly after World War II. And these homes, they're 900 square feet to 1,400 square feet, and they're perfect for new families that are starting out. And it was so refreshing to see, kids everywhere, trikes and playgrounds in the backyard again. And we know we can build these. We've done it before, and we can do it again.
So you bring up that those homes in Layton there, and how refreshing that is. So with this money that's earmarked for this, is it just statewide, blanketed statewide, or is there some earmarked for the urban areas or more rural areas?
Yeah. So we hope that it will be everywhere. Again, what's unique about this housing crisis is that it's affecting everywhere. Usually, kind of rural areas don't see that type of housing inflation when we've had spikes. But certainly in Fairview, where our home is, every county we've talked to, this is a big concern for them. They've seen prices just skyrocket, not just because of the increased interest rates, although that's certainly part of it. It's much broader than that. It's a supply issue everywhere, and so yeah, we want this to be everywhere. There's several other pieces to this that I haven't shared. One is a program that exists right now in rural Utah. It's a sweat equity program. It's run through the USDA, but there's state money that goes into that. We're proposing $15 million to significantly increase the number of homes that could be built through this sweat equity program. Again, it's very common in rural area. We want to bring some of that to urban. They used to have a sweat equity program on the Wasatch Front. They don't anymore, but most of that will go to rural, which is where groups of families build their homes together, and they put in so many hours of sweat equity, and it helps to that becomes their down payment for the home, which makes it possible for people who cannot own a home to actually afford one now. So that's a program we're interested in. There's another interesting program out there, a land trust program. I think there's one in Moab. There's one in Provo. There's just a couple in the state where a trust, these land trust programs, the trust owns the land, and then the family owns the home on the land, and they lease the land underneath it. In this one case, they pay $60 a month for the land underneath, which also lowers the price of the home. Instead of buying a $100,000 lot now, you're just paying $60 a month for the lot, but you own the home. So there's some unique things happening out there. We've also proposed $5 million for a housing innovation fund to get the very best and brightest ideas on architecture and construction, and just different ways to build a home to make them look beautiful, but to take up less space and make them cheaper to purchase. So lots of ideas out there, and we think there will be many more, but these will definitely impact rural Utah.
Once again, Governor Spencer Cox with us on Direct Link on stations statewide. We have a listener in Richfield that's weighed in asking, we have been blessed with an overload of subsidized housing, but saying it has now put a burden on local governments by way of police, EMS, etc. And so he wants to know when we're going to be blessed with some assistance from the state for mental health and substance abuse issues as a result.
Yeah. No, thank you for that. We also have in our proposal significant increases to help with the mental health piece as well in our rural areas. Some additional MCOTs. We're proposing an additional receiving center. These are centers that are being built all across the state now, where people who are struggling, think of them kind of like urgent care for mental health. We know we need to do more in this space as well, and the listener in Richfield is absolutely right. And so we're hoping that the legislature will support us in those efforts as well.
Once again, Governor Spencer Cox with us on Direct Link. We're coming up to our first break here on Direct Link. We want to remind you that this is an opportunity for you to reach out and ask your questions directly to the governor. The phone number to call, if you'd like to do so, is 435-835-5555. That's 435-835-5555. A lot more to get to coming up here inside Direct Link. We'll talk about the water issues that the state has been facing for many years and where we stand now after having a very wet water year this past year, along with what's happening with the Great Salt Lake Project and more to come here inside Direct Link. So stay tuned right here on the station you're listening to statewide here for Direct Link with Governor Spencer Cox. We'll be back after this short break.
Thank you. U&I Furniture wants to say thank you to all of their friends and customers. U&I Furniture is grateful to be a family business, now in their 5th generation. For over 90 years, they've always offered a good product at a good price. And that's why they say you'll always find a better buy at U&I. Stop by and see them this holiday season with lots of store-wide specials and great bargains. Purchase any sofa or sectional, and U&I says thank you with $100 off on any chair to go with it. U&I Furniture in downtown Logan.
Merry Christmas from our family to yours.
Christmas is at Murdoch Volkswagen.
Unwrap incredible savings during the most wonderful buy of the year.
But you have to hurry.
These deals are going faster than Santa's reindeer.
Receive the gift of 4.9% for 6 years on the Atlas or Atlas Crossport, or 3.9% for 6 years on the 2023 Taos, Tiguan, or ID4.
When you walk through our doors, you feel like family.
At Murdoch Volkswagen in Logan or online at murdochbw.com.
Call 866-628-3065. Receive dealer for complete details. Offer expires 1/2/24.
Cares for Christmas is dedicated to helping families each holiday season. In Family 8, they're a family of 6 who have lots of financial troubles. They don't know a lot of English, and Christmas isn't something they can afford this year. The parents would like gift cards for clothes and food. The children's wants are clothes, toys, and shoes. For more information, go to caresforchristmas.org. That's caresforchristmas.org. And thanks for caring this Christmas.
Hi, this is Gordon Deal. Wednesday on This Morning, America's First News. As House Republicans move on the impeachment inquiry against President Biden, we'll examine the claims that form the basis of the probe. Also, interest rates are expected to remain unchanged following the current meeting of the Federal Reserve. What's that mean for us? And debating where potatoes belong in America's food pyramid. Wednesday on This Morning, America's First News. From 4 to 6 on News Talk KVNU, 610 AM and 102 FM. Your station for news and talk.
News and current events. News Talk KVNU, 610 AM and 102.1 FM.
With Governor Spencer Cox on Mid-Utah Radio, KSVC 980 AM and 100.5 FM, and KMTI 650 AM and 95.1 FM.
Welcome back to Direct Link. I'm your host, Robert Lovell, with Mid-Utah Radio tonight, and we are joined once again by Governor Spencer Cox, broadcasting on stations statewide to help you, our listeners, have the opportunity to hear from Governor Cox directly and also get your questions answered directly from Governor Spencer Cox. So, Governor, we've been talking about the budget for this upcoming year, your proposal for that budget, and we'll let the legislature ultimately decide and vote on that coming up here in a couple of months. But let's turn our attention now to water, and we know water always a big issue within the state of Utah. So before we get to where we're at in the current water year, let's go to the Great Salt Lake Project. How is that coming along, and what's the current plans for that to continue?
Sure. Yeah. So we've been very involved working with the legislature and others to help preserve the Great Salt Lake. No one in the state wants to see the Great Salt Lake dry up. Obviously, that would create lots of issues and problems. And we were very fortunate, as you mentioned already, to have an incredible water year last year. We were able to get more of that water to the Great Salt Lake, which we were very pleased with. We saw significant increases of about 5.5 feet. To put that into perspective, the last 2 years, the lake came up about 1 foot with the spring runoff. So to get 5.5 feet in 1 year is tremendous. Now, we're still well below kind of where we need to be, the average, historical average of the lake. We need to go probably another 6 feet to get there, and that may take us a couple of years. But we're making significant progress. We have a new position that was created by the legislature a office of the commissioner of the Great Salt Lake. Well, one of the problems with the Great Salt Lake is no one kind of has ownership. There are several groups that are involved. Everybody has a piece of it, but nobody kind of oversees the lake as a whole. We also made significant changes to water law in the state. We've always operated as most Western states have, with a kind of use it or lose it rubric for water law, and encourage people who didn't want to lose it to maybe use it in inefficient ways. We certainly changed that now. We set aside some money as well to purchase or lease water to get to the Great Salt Lake, water that agriculture or other industrial users aren't using, that we can use to help fill the Great Salt Lake again. And that's proven to be very effective. So I'm very optimistic. When we're looking at our water year right now, it's very, very early, but northern Utah is above average right now, which is good. Southern Utah is below average, so we definitely need some more water there. We're talking to meteorologists the end of this month. We've got a kind of a dry period right now, but the end of the month is looking really promising, and so we're hopeful that we'll be able to continue to get water to the Great Salt Lake.
So obviously the Great Salt Lake is a key piece of water, not just for the Salt Lake area, but for the state as a whole. And so let's look at how reservoirs are doing right now and what the water situation is like right now as we come into this winter season.
Yeah, this is the best news of all. Since I've been governor, we've never had our reservoirs as full as they are today, and so honestly I couldn't be more excited. We are, I think last I checked, our reservoirs on average are 70% full in the state. That's well above where they would normally be this time of year, about 15% higher than we would expect. Usually around 55 to 60% is where we would plan to be, and so we're just incredibly excited about what's happening there. Now, that being said, we still have some big reservoirs that aren't nearly that full, and when I say 70%, that excludes Lake Powell. And for obvious reasons, Lake Powell is a very important in the western United States, and we want to make sure that we get Lake Powell full. Last year was a great year for Lake Powell, but we still have a long ways to go. And the entire Colorado River Basin, we're in the process of negotiations when it comes to that basin, the upper basin states and the lower basin states. We know the hydrology of the river isn't where people thought it was going to be. The lower basin states have been using more than their allocation. The upper basin states, where we belong, we've used less of our allocation, and so we have a lot of work to do there. But we're hopeful that Flaming Gorge will fill up, and then that will help us to be able to fill up Lake Powell and then Lake Mead, and that helps everybody along that very important Colorado River Basin.
Yeah, again, clearly that's a key piece of water for the whole western United States, as you mentioned, with Lake Powell. But let's talk about if we do have another great water year, which is obviously the hope, and what happens then with the potential aspect of flooding and how the state prepares for that.
Yeah, it's interesting. Last year, we got a great run when it comes to flood preparation, and we were very fortunate, as blessed as we were to have record snowpack, more snow than we've had in recorded history here in the state of Utah. But it was amazing that we didn't have major flooding. There was some localized flooding in a couple spaces, but the weather cooperated perfectly to have that all come down. But our infrastructure also held. So back when we had the big floods, back in 83, 84, those time frames, we had invested in significant upgrades to our infrastructure, and this was a time we actually got to see it hold, and it paid off. But we worked very closely with our county emergency folks, with every city in the state. We had emergency funds that the legislature has been setting aside. We've been proposing every year. We have those monies available if there is a catastrophe or major flooding. We were able to get millions of sandbags into the state and get those filled and deployed where they needed to be to protect homes and infrastructure. And so we feel pretty good about our preparations and the fact that we were able, after several years of drought, to kind of flex that muscle again and realize we still know how to do this.
Once again, Governor Spencer Cox with us on Direct Link. We're broadcasting on stations statewide to help bring you the opportunity to ask your questions that you have for the governor directly here tonight on Direct Link. If you'd like to do so, the phone number to call is 435-835-5555. That's 435-835-5555. And you can ask your questions directly to Governor Spencer Cox here on Direct Link as we broadcast again statewide here tonight with this program. We appreciate Governor Cox taking the time to do that for us here right now. And Governor, I'm going to come back to the flooding piece here. Of course, we all think of the flood of 83. That was the last really big flood that certainly caused significant damage statewide. And that was the second year of a 3-year period where we had 3 great water years in a row, and that was the middle year of that run. If we have that second great water year again back to back like we did last year and have that again this year, that are the experts saying that we could see potential flooding like that again?
Yeah, we've had those conversations as well, and again, the good news is that unlike that 3-year run, 81, 82, 83, that time frame, or 82, 83, 84, we didn't have significant drought preceding those years like we have this time, and so we have much more capacity than we had back then, and that's really great news for all of us. I don't know. I won't be turning on the pumps at the Great Salt Lake with another big water year this year, but I will say we do prime those pumps every year and make sure that they still work out there just in case we need them. But we feel pretty confident that we can have another big water year and still be good, still be fine. In fact, we're some of us, including me, I'm still praying for another big water year. We'll definitely take it. I would love to get that Great Salt Lake up another 5 feet this water year. We'll all breathe a lot easier if we're able to do something like that.
Once again, Governor Spencer Cox with us here on Direct Link, and we've got another question coming in as we switch gears here, Governor. This question focuses on resources being allocated to school and local food bank. What they want to know, will there be increases for those specific areas as those have been really stretched and been hit hard in recent years?
Yeah, they have, and I appreciate that question. Sadly, because of inflation, and I could spend all day talking about some poor decisions that the federal government has made that have led to significant increases in prices. We talked about the price of housing, but the price of food, the price of energy, the price of gas, although the price of gas is finally coming down again, which we're grateful for this holiday season. But that's impacting families, and it's impacting families when it comes to their ability for food and food insecurity. The good news is we've seen food insecurity declining over the past 5 years in our state, but the last year it started to tick up again. Again, I think because of the significant increases in inflation. And so, yes, we're working to get more funding out to help with our local food banks. Mentioned schools. There are several programs, and we're lucky to live in the state that leads the nation with volunteers, leads the nation in service, and leads the nation in charitable giving. I can tell you for our extended family Christmas party, we packed bags of food for kids to take home on weekends so that they don't have to go hungry at all. And so we feel good about the direction we're going, but we do need more funding, and we'll be working with the legislature to make that happen.
Of course, we did see a recent big warehouse being built in San Juan County in regards to the food bank. Is there ways to get that out there more as well?
Yeah, for sure. We want to support those projects at the local county level. Those warehouses, we work very closely with the Utah Food Bank, who supplies most of those. Some have their own supply, and we're just so grateful for generous Utahns. I would encourage people, especially as we're heading into the Christmas holidays, to reach out to your local food bank, see what kind of needs they have, see if there's opportunities to help. There are food drives happening all of the time in our local communities, and we would love to have people help out and be very generous this time of year and always. Those needs, again, we think about it during Christmas time and then we forget come January, February, March, but there's a need year round, and we would encourage people to be very generous.
Once again, Governor Spencer Cox with us on Direct Link on stations across the state as we bring you Direct Link and an opportunity to reach out to the governor directly and have your questions answered. We do have some more questions coming in from listeners. We will get to those after this next break. But if you'd like to weigh in, the phone number to call is 435-835-5555. That's 435-835-5555. Again, to reach out to Governor Spencer Cox directly and have your questions answered by him directly to you, our listeners here across the state. And again, we appreciate the Utah Broadcasters Association for helping put Direct Link together and making it possible for us to bring you this show every other month across the state. So again, give us a call if you have questions you'd like answered. We have some more coming in. We'll get to those after the break. 435-835-5555. And we'll be back with more of Direct Link with Governor Spencer Cox next here on stations statewide throughout the state of Utah.
Good evening. I'm Bill Walter, KVNU News. The U.S. Department of Commerce Bureau of Economic Analysis, or BEA, has unveiled its latest report on the economic influence of outdoor recreation in the U.S., with Utah emerging as a standout performer in 2022. The BEA's Outdoor Recreation Satellite account reveals that Utah's outdoor recreation economy surged by an impressive 32.8% from 2021 to 2022, marking a historic milestone for the state. The report showcases how outdoor recreation generated a staggering $8.1 billion in value added for the state's economy. The economic impact accounts for a 3.2% of Utah's gross domestic product and supports a workforce of 71,677 jobs. The stats represent the largest recorded measure for Utah since the BEA began tracking the outdoor recreation economy in 2012, highlighting the sector's rapid growth and critical role in the state's economic landscape. Last night, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander scored 30 points in 3 quarters, and the Oklahoma City Thunder defeated the Utah Jazz 134-120. Keontae George scored a season-best 30 points for the Jazz in the losing effort. Widespread haze, but also some gusty canyon winds developing in the overnight hours. Low in the mid-20s, winds could gust into the 35 to 40 mile per hour range. Low temperature in the mid-20s. And then widespread haze redeveloping, mostly sunny, and the high temperature in the upper 30s. It was 30 today. For the latest news, visit CashValleyDaily.com.
Hi, it's Congressman Mike Simpson. Did you know my office can assist you when navigating a federal agency? That's right. As your representative, I can help you obtain a passport, work through IRS claims or issues with the Social Security Administration or Veterans Affairs. My team and I are available at our offices in Idaho and Washington, D.C. Contact us at 208-734-7219 or at simpson.house.gov. See you around town.
Paid for by official funds authorized by the House of Representatives.
I'm Larry Gelwix, the getaway guru for Morris Columbus Travel and Princess Cruises, with the biggest cruise promotion of the year, including free open bar, free Wi-Fi, and free prepaid gratuities. Sail with Princess Cruises and get free. And for the best travel deals on the planet, give us a call at Morris Columbus Travel.
Come on and get away, Morris Columbus.
Hey Aggie Nation, this is Nick Henniger, all-conference defensive end, Mountain West champion with the Aggies, and professional football player in the CFL. When the game's on the line, the last thing you want to worry about is your vision. That's why I chose Monson Vision for my LASIK surgery. I was tired of the hassles of contacts and glasses affecting my performance. With so much riding on my career, I went with the best, Dr. Monson. The result? Incredible 20/10 vision. My experience was terrific from start to finish, and I can't recommend Dr. Monson enough. When it comes to your eyes, go with the best. Schedule your appointment at Monson Vision today.
Wednesday edition Clay Travis Buck Sexton Show will get you ready for all of the craziness coming through the holiday season. In particular, what in the world is the Supreme Court going to do with the expedited review that they have, plus the absolute latest on Iowa and New Hampshire. It'll be the Clay Travis Buck Sexton Show. Come hang.
10 to 1 on News Talk KVNU, 102 FM and 610 AM. Covering all the news. Stay with 610 AM and 102.1 FM. News Talk KVNU.
Welcome back to a Direct Link with Governor Spencer Cox on stations statewide, bringing you direct access to Utah Governor Spencer Cox. And let's go right to your questions now as we welcome you back. And once again, if you want to call in and ask a question, the phone number to call is 435-835-5555. And Governor Leslie from Naples up in the Uinta Basin would like to know, what are we going to do about energy if the federal government insists on everything moving to electric cars, etc.? Are we going to be able to meet their deadlines? And are we working towards nuclear energy to fill the gap? Windmills and solar only do so much. And so what about water-cooled nuclear power? There's a lot of questions in this one, Governor, but how are we preparing? And we have access to energy in the basin, but can't get it to where it needs to go. What are we going to do to get energy going?
Well, Leslie is very wise in her questions, and there are actually a lot of answers in her own questions. And I want to say I just agree with everything that she said in there. So a couple of things that I think are important. One, yes, the federal government does have a big program for more electric vehicles. Now, I don't think it's wise for everything to go to electric. I think there is a place for electric, and there are some definite positives with that. One of the issues with electric vehicles is we do need infrastructure, especially in the West. There's a lot of range anxiety. Again, for those of us in rural Utah, electric doesn't work if you can't recharge quickly and you have to drive. I was commuting 200 miles round trip every day for 7.5 years, and I'm not alone in the state being able to do that. That's really hard to do with an electric vehicle. So I want to be very cautious with that. I will also say that one of the big problems that the federal government has with this initiative are the critical minerals that they need to actually build these cars. And it takes a tremendous amount of mining to do this. We have those critical minerals here. We have them in the state of Utah. I think something like 28 out of the 34 most important minerals exist right here in the state of Utah. The problem is the federal government, the very people who want us to do this stuff, won't allow us to get to those critical minerals because of over-regulating and because of the extreme environmental community. And so instead, we're purchasing these minerals for these electric vehicles, for solar panels. They're coming from China and from Africa, and those mines in Africa are owned by the Chinese. They're also coming from Russia, and so they're coming from our adversaries. And I just think that's a terrible idea. And so we're pushing really hard to increase again the opportunity to get those critical minerals here in our own state and in our own country. We think that's important. Now, she also mentions, Leslie mentions the importance of nuclear energy, and I could not agree more. I've been one of the most vocal proponents of nuclear energy. Again, the federal government has hampered that for many years. We went like 40 years without a new nuclear reactor. Until this year, we finally have a new one that is operational in our country. We have more that are coming online. We've been pushing for this in the state of Utah. In fact, I led a trade delegation to France. France has done very, very well when it comes to nuclear energy. And it turns out nuclear energy is safer than just about any other form of energy. It's much more reliable, which is important. She's also right when talking about windmills and solar. Windmills and solar have their place, but they are not baseload energy. And far too many people don't understand, especially the extreme environmental community doesn't understand baseload power and how important baseload power is. So what ends up happening is you see places like California who have moved to all mostly renewable. They're not getting any coal or gas fired power, and it's just not reliable. It's also more expensive, so you end up having brownouts, right, when there's high demand because you're losing that baseload power. We cannot lose baseload power. We also need to make sure that energy is affordable. If not, it's like a tax, especially on the most poor. When energy prices go up, we are hurting our most vulnerable. And if you care about our most vulnerable, then you have to care about this issue. We can do this. We can help to decarbonize. We can do it in a smart way, in a sequential way. And so we're still very reliant on our coal industry. I come from coal country. Very proud of our mining industry. We have the cleanest coal in the world. It burns hotter and cleaner than anywhere else. and we want to keep those coal-fired power plants going as long as we possibly can. We also have natural gas, an abundant supply of natural gas, which is cleaner than coal, and we're using that and going to continue to use that. And then the transition has to be to nuclear. That's going to take some time, but we have 2 proposed nuclear plants in the state of Utah that Rocky Mountain Power is working on. They're going through the permitting process. It's incredibly difficult and laborious. They're hoping at the earliest those would be available in the early, 2031, 2032. I think it's going to take longer than that, and I'm not willing to turn off our baseload power until those are up and operational. And so we're going to have some fights against the federal government who are trying to shut our plants down. We're going to have some lawsuits against the federal government. We're going to win those lawsuits against the federal government, and we're going to make sure that we do this in the right way. And I have to say, President Biden understands this. If you listen to his State of the Nation speech this past spring, I was actually there as a guest of Senator Mike Lee. All the senators get to bring one guest, and he was kind enough to take me back, and we were there listening to it together. And he was talking about how we need to decarbonize and clean up our energy sources. And then he went off script a little bit and says, "I know this is going to take a while, and we're not going to be able to shut down, all of our traditional energy sources." So he understands that, even if some of the rhetoric is a little too heated and trying to shut it down too soon. But anyway, I really want to thank Leslie for asking that question and the way that she asked it, because she gets this and understands it. And we need more Americans to understand this, and we certainly need more politicians in Washington, D.C. to understand it.
We do have a follow-up question to that, kind of piggybacking off of what you just talked about, though. But Gene from Central Valley in Sevier County asking about that you mentioned that you're pushing to be able to access those minerals in the state of Utah. But what are the plans for actually being able to explore mining and oil drilling in the state?
Yeah. So again, we've been pushing on the federal government for this for quite a while. We have some lawsuits that have already been filed. We're trying to hold them accountable to allow us to do this. On private lands, it's much easier for us to do this. The problem is that 2/3 of the state is owned by the federal government. Now, that was never the intention. This happened in virtually every state. The state constitutions say that the federal government will dispose of those lands. That those lands, it was never anticipated that they would be held for hundreds of years, that they would be locked up like this. And so we're a public land state. We will always be a public land state, but it makes it really difficult, the permitting process. And so we're working with the private sector to help get through that process at the federal government level. And again, we've challenged the federal government when they stopped that from happening. I had a meeting it's been about a year ago where I had the Secretary of Energy and the Secretary of Interior in the same room together, and the Secretary of Energy was saying all of the right things and agreeing with me that we needed to unlock critical minerals, that we needed to do all of these things. And the Secretary of the Interior was sitting right next to her, and they were talking about how they were going to get all of this federal funding to help incentivize this exploration of critical minerals in our country. And I had to stop them, and I just said, look, that's wonderful. We don't need more federal money to incentivize the exploration for critical minerals. The market's already there. We have companies that would love to do that, and you don't need to give them money to do that. The problem is that these critical minerals are on federal lands, and the Secretary of Interior, who's sitting right next to you, won't even allow us to explore for those critical minerals on these lands, won't allow us to mine for these critical minerals. And so I need you to talk to her, to talk to your boss, the President of the United States, to make sure that we can do this. And of course, Congress can help here, but we have a divided Congress that isn't doing anything, which isn't helpful at all. And so I get very frustrated. And so that's the direction we're going, and that's where we're pushing. And hopefully smarter and cooler heads will prevail.
Well, I'm curious to know the reaction from the Secretary of the Interior when you did that.
It was very awkward. Let me just put it that way. She kind of smiled and nodded, and then gave a non-answer, and both of them realized how ridiculous this whole scenario was. That on one hand, the Biden administration is going to give a whole bunch of money for critical mineral development. And on the other hand, the Biden administration isn't going to let us develop the critical minerals that are here. And they recognize the absurdity of that. And hopefully we can make some changes there.
Once again, this is Direct Link with Governor Spencer Cox on stations statewide as we bring you the governor directly into your homes, your radios, and the opportunity for you to reach out and ask your questions directly. The phone number to call is 435-835-5555. That's 835-5555. Again, that 435 prefix there to be able to ask your questions to Governor Spencer Cox. We do have some more comments coming in. We'll get to those after the break, and we'll come back with our final segment of Direct Link next here on stations statewide with Direct Link with Governor Spencer Cox.
Maple Creek Ranch is excited to announce they just finished the asphalt on all the roads. So come drive the smooth roads and see what this piece of paradise is all about, which is now in its fourth and final phase of development. If you've always dreamed of living in the mountains, Maple Creek Ranch is for you. Surrounded by miles of wilderness, babbling brooks, horse riding, and hiking trails, with 2.5-acre lots to build your dream home. Learn more at maplecreekranch.net or hop in the car and come see it for yourself, just east of Franklin, Idaho.
Not sure what to give for a holiday gift for family or employees? How about a gift card to Beehive Pub and Grill? Receive a voucher for a free gelato with a $25 gift card purchase, or a voucher for a free burger or sandwich of your choice with a $50 gift card purchase. Take care of your coworkers, employees, and family with a gift card from Beehive Pub and Grill. Open 11 to 8:30 weekdays and 11 to 9 Friday and Saturday. Beehive Pub and Grill is perfect for the holidays.
When it comes to home care, it's important to know you have a choice. If you or a loved one is in need of hospice or home health services, remember that Primrose Home Care and Hospice believes in treating the patient as well as the problem. We work directly with you and your doctor to create a health plan that's catered to your needs. Our team is devoted to providing options in the freedom and safety of your own home. Visit us at primrosecare.com or call to schedule a free consultation. Primrose Home Care and Hospice, your local hospice and home health provider since 2006.
Bank of Utah wants to give a heartfelt thank you to all who showed their support of their 11th annual Warm Bodies, Warm Souls clothing drive. Thanks to you and your donations, they were able to collect and deliver over 300 bags and barrels of warm clothes for people in need at 12 charities across Utah, including Cache Community Food Pantry in Logan. Thank you again for your help of the Bank of Utah Warm Bodies, Warm Souls clothing drive. Together, we are Utah. Find out more at bankofutah.com. Member FDIC, NMLS number 422914.
Breaking news, stimulating talk. News Talk, KVNU, 610 AM and 102.1 FM.
Spencer Cox on Mid-Utah Radio, KSVC 980 AM and 100.5 FM, and KMTI 650 AM and 95.1 FM.
Link with Governor Spencer Cox, and I appreciate you joining us here tonight. And Governor, let's get right to the questions as we are running short on time. We do first of all have another question coming in from Mayfield. Keith from Mayfield has asked the question about water, saying the answer to water storage is consistently just for water conservation is more storage, and saying that the following generations won't have anything to look forward to, and we can't rely on snow to be our water storage. But environmentalists won't let us build without studies. So we need to scout out new locations for reservoirs. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, Keith is right. Again, another brilliant observation from one of our listeners tonight. We agree, Keith, and this has been something I pushed for a long time. Again, as someone from rural Utah, we actually have a reservoir that we've been working on for over 100 years that was supposed to be built back in the it started in the 20s and 30s. It was supposed to be built in the 30s and into the 40s. It ended up not being built. Schofield was built instead, and there were some water fights between Carbon County and Sanpete County, but mostly, again, it's been these federal regulations that have made it so difficult. We don't build dams anymore in our country. I think it's a huge mistake. I think our ancestors would look at us as fools for our inability to build more water storage, and so it's something we've been working on for sure. Again, because of the same problem that I mentioned last time, where it's tough because the federal government owns so much of the land in the state, and that's where the best reservoirs would work is on that federal land. But we are looking at new water storage in different parts of the state. We've been working with the Department of Natural Resources to look at where reservoirs could be built, where they would have the biggest impact for, where the population is growing, what that would look like, and then try to prioritize those and see if we can't get some of those built. So we're again, you are absolutely right on this one, and stay tuned because we're trying to build more storage.
We have just a few minutes left for Direct Link tonight, but we will go to the phone line as Cowboy Paul from Monroe Canyon has a question for you, Governor. Cowboy?
Hello, sir. How are you?
I'm very well, Paul. Thanks for calling in.
You're not going to appreciate what I have to say, but, you sent $10 million to whom last year? To increase the volume in the Great Salt Lake? Did you send it to God?
No. Thanks for the question. So the legislature, our supermajority Republican
you're
legislature,
missing the point, dude.
approved.
Mr. Cox, with all due respect, you're missing the point.
Well, Paul, you need to give me an opportunity to answer here. So let me please give me an opportunity to answer. Okay. So the money that has been set aside, again, that was approved by the legislature, comes in a couple different forms. One of the big tranches was to help agriculture producers in the state, to help farmers and ranchers to use the new technology that's available, so that they can use less water to grow the food that we need and allow more of that water to get to the Great Salt Lake. The farmers and ranchers in the state have been so grateful for that opportunity. It's basically been the equivalent of a new reservoir in the state. The amount of water that we've been able to save by using new technology to get that water to develop our crops, to still raise the same amount of food in our state and allow that excess water to get to the Great Salt Lake. So again, it's a very well-respected program, and it sounds like you're not excited about that, and I understand that. But I was grateful that the legislature was able to get that passed.
I think you're a liar.
Well, okay. I appreciate that. That's Merry Christmas to you. We can document all of this. I would love to show it to you. It's all available publicly, and I'm happy to send you all of the information that you need to prove that I'm not lying about this. It would be a very weird thing to lie about, but I hope you have a wonderful Christmas.
Appreciate that from Cowboy Paul again in Monroe Canyon, weighing in and asking his question directly to Governor Spencer Cox. Governor, appreciate the way you answered that as well. And we're running short on time here. No other questions coming in from listeners right now, Governor, but what would you like the citizens of the state of Utah to know about where the state is at right now as a whole?
Well, there's a couple things that I think are really important. We're so lucky to live in a state where we still have a healthy economy, where things are going well. A U.S. News and World Report named us the best state in the nation to live. That's never happened before. They looked at 70 different categories. They ranked all 50 states, and they chose Utah as the best place to live. I think we know that. Now, that doesn't mean we don't have challenges. We definitely do have challenges. Some of those challenges are growth related. When you have a good economy, when you have a good conservative state who runs things the right ways, we are seeing lots of people who want to move here. Lots of people coming from California and other places. I would love to build a wall around Utah and to prevent that from happening. Mostly what I'm concerned about is making sure that our kids and grandkids can live here. And that's really where our focus is. We created an Office of Family to make sure that we're making decisions that protect families, that the history of Utah, the culture of Utah, the things that have made us so special and so different. We don't want to lose that. And we're committed to keeping Utah strong and working with the legislature to do that. Mostly, I just want to say how lucky we are this Christmas season. it's a good time to pause and count our blessings, to give back, to look for those who are in need. We live in the most generous state in the nation. I love our people, and I'm so grateful to have this opportunity. Thank you. I just wish everybody a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, whatever you celebrate, and I hope you have a wonderful New Year.
Governor, thank you again for joining us on Direct Link, and Merry Christmas to you. And that will do it for Direct Link here on the stations throughout the state.
You've been listening to Direct Link with Utah Governor Spencer Cox on stations throughout the state in partnership with the Utah Broadcasters Association. Tune in to this station every month for Direct Link.
What makes essential workers essential?
We keep where you work and live clean and safe.
We harvest fresh produce for your families to eat.
We help you heal when you're sick. Essential workers help our nation run. You're in every corner of our country and come from all over the globe. I'm Marty Walsh. The Wage and Hour Division at the Department of Labor helps ensure you receive the essential protections you deserve. Visit our website or call 866-4US-WAGE.
Brought to you by the United States Department of Labor.
Miss a minute? You're missing a lot. Breaking news, stimulating talk. News Talk, KVNU Logan, 610 AM and 102.1 FM.